Welcome to History Explained, where we illuminate the past to better understand our present. I'm your guide to your daily journey through the past to empower the future. Today is Wednesday, July 30th, 2025. As we do every Wednesday, we're exploring a major global event that shaped the course of world history. Today, we turn our attention to the Berlin Airlift, the massive humanitarian and logistical operation that took place from June 24, 1948, to May 12, 1949. This unprecedented effort to supply West Berlin by air became a defining moment of the early Cold War and demonstrated Western resolve against Soviet pressure. What makes the Berlin Airlift particularly significant is how it transformed a potential military confrontation into a peaceful demonstration of democratic values and technological capability. The operation established important precedents for Cold War competition while showing how humanitarian aid could serve strategic political purposes. So let's explore this pivotal Cold War crisis, examining the events that led to the Soviet blockade, the Western response, and the lasting impact on German division and East-West relations. The roots of the Berlin crisis lay in the post-World War II occupation of Germany. The former Nazi capital was divided into four sectors controlled by the United States, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union, even though Berlin itself was located deep within the Soviet occupation zone of Eastern Germany. By 1948, tensions between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union over Germany's future had reached a breaking point. The Western powers wanted to rebuild West Germany as a democratic, economically viable nation integrated into the Western Alliance, while Stalin sought to keep Germany weak and divided. The immediate trigger came when the Western Allies introduced a new currency, the Deutsche Mark, in their zones of Germany on June 20, 1948. Stalin viewed this monetary reform as a threat to Soviet control over Eastern Germany and a step toward permanent German division. On June 24, 1948, Soviet forces began blocking all road, rail, and water access to West Berlin, cutting off the city's 2.1 million residents from supplies of food, fuel, and other necessities. The blockade was designed to force the Western Allies to abandon Berlin or accept Soviet terms for German reunification. President Harry Truman faced a critical decision: abandon Berlin, attempt to break the blockade by force and risk war, or find an alternative solution. Military advisors warned that fighting through to Berlin could trigger World War III, while abandoning the city would represent a major defeat for Western credibility. The solution came from General Lucius Clay, the American military governor in Germany, who proposed supplying Berlin entirely by air. This seemed almost impossible. The city required 4,500 tons of supplies daily, and existing air transport capacity was nowhere near sufficient for such a massive operation. Operation Vittles, as the Americans called it, began on June 26, 1948, with British Operation Plainfare starting simultaneously. The initial goal was modest: to demonstrate Western resolve while buying time for diplomatic negotiations. However, as the operation expanded, it became clear that the airlift could actually sustain the entire city. The logistical challenges were enormous. Berlin had only two usable airports, Tempelhof and Gatow, with a third, Tegel, built during the airlift itself. Aircraft had to navigate through narrow air corridors controlled by the Soviets, who occasionally harassed Western planes with searchlights and mock attacks. At its peak, the airlift involved over 300 aircraft making nearly 1,400 flights daily. Planes landed in Berlin every few minutes around the clock, creating what participants called the Great Vittles Air Bridge. The operation required unprecedented coordination between American and British air forces. The humanitarian aspect of the airlift captured global attention. Western pilots, many of whom had bombed Berlin just 3 years earlier, were now risking their lives to feed the same people they had fought against. This transformation from enemies to protectors demonstrated the possibility of reconciliation and democratic values. Berliners themselves showed remarkable resilience and gratitude. Despite severe shortages of food, fuel, and electricity, the vast majority rejected Soviet offers of supplies in exchange for abandoning the Western sectors. Their determination to remain free became a powerful symbol of resistance to communist expansion. The airlift also had important technological and organizational impacts. It accelerated developments in air traffic control, cargo handling, and logistics that influenced both military and civilian aviation. The operation demonstrated capabilities that would later prove valuable in other humanitarian crises. By spring 1949, it became clear that the blockade had failed. The airlift was successfully sustaining West Berlin while the blockade was damaging Soviet prestige internationally. On May 12, 1949, Stalin lifted the blockade, though the airlift continued until September to build up supply reserves. The Berlin Airlift had profound consequences for the Cold War and European politics. It established West Berlin as a symbol of freedom and Western commitment, while demonstrating that the United States would not abandon its allies under pressure. The crisis accelerated the formation of NATO and the permanent division of Germany. The operation also marked a crucial moment in German-American relations. The sight of American and British planes bringing food rather than bombs helped transform West German attitudes toward their former enemies and facilitated Germany's integration into the Western Alliance. For the Soviet Union, the failed blockade represented a significant strategic defeat. Rather than preventing German division, the crisis accelerated the creation of separate East and West German states and strengthened Western unity against Soviet expansion. The Berlin Airlift demonstrated how creative, peaceful responses to international crises could achieve strategic objectives without military conflict. This precedent influenced later Cold War confrontations and showed how humanitarian operations could serve broader political purposes. The operation's success also highlighted the importance of air power and logistics in modern conflict. The ability to sustain an entire city by air alone represented a revolutionary development in military and humanitarian capabilities that continues to influence emergency response operations today. Thank you for joining us for this exploration of the Berlin Airlift. Tomorrow, we'll be back with our Cultural Insights episode where we'll be examining the influence of the Silk Road on cross-cultural exchange and global trade. If you enjoyed this journey through history, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how the Berlin Airlift shaped Cold War dynamics and international humanitarian efforts. Until next time, I'm your guide for History Explained, where we believe that understanding yesterday is the key to navigating tomorrow.